Hey everybody, welcome to the next S.T.A.R Labs confidential live stream. I'm here with Keith Kent here as we're going to talk about all things Superman related. Welcome to the show, Keith.
Good afternoon. How is everyone?
Things do well here. A little bit rainy here in Connecticut, but it's that time of year.
Yeah, looking forward to Halloween and October. All that fun.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. So I guess I want to ask, you're definitely one of the few cosplayers for Superman in your hometown, London, right?
Yeah, I'm just south of London on the south coast, but you could kind of classify me in the whole wide scheme of things as London. There's not many here in the UK, and especially not many people that do the classic breathe look. Most of the other cosplayers in this country I know of tend to do Man of Steel.
Yeah, because you do currently I guess like the Chris Reeves suit and the Superman Returns look as well, right?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a geek. I've got about 14 different outfits. Um, so I also do Nuclear Man, and I have this one, which is based off Superman 4, slightly lighter colour. And I've done Returns, I've done Dean Cain. I do have a Man of Steel suit, but I also have like old suits which I've turned into Doomsday Destroyed and stuff like that. But probably my most obscure one is Nuclear Man, because I've not seen that done that often.
Yeah, that's something you don't really see too often. Like very few people have done Nuclear Man.
It's not a very popular film, but it was filmed over here. And in fact, just the other week, I was lucky enough to go to some of the film locations and have some pictures taken where Reeve actually stood and portrayed as Superman. So you've got to give him a bit of love, even though it's probably one of the worst movies in Superman chronic movie slate anyway.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely one of the more interesting films, I would say, for the Man of Steel. Though, was that your first experience watching Superman, that movie, or one of the older ones?
I remember being a child and watching the Reeve movies, probably about the age of 5 on TV. I actually grew up, again, like I said, near where they filmed Superman 4, not knowing. I was very, very close. I was born to where it was filmed in Milton Keynes, and I must have heard talk about it being filmed in the town. And I think I saw the movies and I instantly fell in love with the character and the suit and the values that Superman had. So it's always been a strong part of my life growing up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate some of the older films. Although I guess my experience with the character the first time would be, I think, of somewhere between Lois and Clark series and the '90s animated series for Superman.
Definitely, the Lois and Clark was a big, big thing for me growing up. I remember that it was 30 years. I'm showing my age now. 30 years ago, that it debuted just over 2 weeks ago, I think, or last week. Lois and Clark, and I think for me, I know we're going to get on to talking about the animated series very soon, the new animated series. But for me, that was the last live action Superman that I really, really did enjoy. I found that it was the suit I really appealed to me, and the whole character and the dynamics, which I think when we talk about the cartoon in a minute, there's a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah, that there are. I do. That's what I think what drew me into the show at first, because I felt like this could have been something they would have done back in the day for that show. But in the '90s, it has like a similar type of style, but definitely with the more anime style. Because were you ever big into? I guess first off, were you ever big into anime as a kid?
Really, I was a geek. I mean, I'm a bit older. I'm 36, and so being a geek was really frowned upon when I was younger into this, and especially like when I first got on the air, and people would like, "What's a Comic Con? What, you know?" They'd look at you a bit weird, you know, that guy dressed as Superman. But no, and I've never been into anime. I've always been into comics. I've never really found myself deep in anime at all.
And I gotcha. I wasn't at first either, at least not until Dragon Ball, because yeah, like even for me, like being a geek seemed slightly frowned upon, so like I would try to hide it a bit.
And yet, look at it now. You go to XL in London for MCM Comic Con, and there's 20, 30, 40,000 people a day going to Comic Con. It's crazy how it's changed all of a sudden and how it's accepted and loved and cherished.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's anime's become very mainstream nowadays.
And even so, I think, and more so because if you go to a Comic Con these days, anime has, especially in London, they have their own hall at Comic Con, and sometimes they can almost seem to match, if not surpass, normal comic styles in terms of the space on the floor and the presence, and also representation for cosplay. A lot of cosplayers love now to dress up as their favorite anime characters.
Oh yeah, especially whether you go like to a big con or a small con, yeah, they put a lot of details with some of those costumes.
And I'm afraid most of the time I don't know who they're meant to represent. I feel a bit embarrassed about that. But then we could go back to the Nuclear Man thing. And when I've gone to Comic Con as Nuclear Man, people just think I look like a giant disco ball. They don't actually know where he's from. So, swings and roundabouts.
Well, if you ever come by to the Superman Festival, then people won't mistake you for any other character.
Fingers crossed. I'm hoping to partake in Superman Celebration in 2024 when the dates are announced, and hopefully nobody's there. They'll see me there, and I may bring some Nuclear Man along.
There's hoping.
Yes,
yep. So, how long have you been doing this cosplaying as Superman?
All started off at university. It kind of a happy accident. I went into Horse residence, and my flatmates were two female fashion students, and they had to do their first assignment was like on alternative materials, and so they had to do like sportswear and spandex and stuff like that. And you know, you're young, it's your first few months at university. They decided to make me a Superman outfit for their semester, and it was great because I could use that as fancy dress, and I play rugby, so it'd be a bit fun. And I've always had this affiliation to Superman, and I was probably 18 at the time, and it got from there. They put me in the suit. Long story short was there was one of the girls was chatting to another girl, and they had their handbag on the floor. A car was parked on the strap. I was in my Superman outfit going to this not cosplay party, this fancy dress party, and rugby pushed the car, so the handbag got free, and I got the nickname Superman on campus. And every time there was a fancy dress event, I was in the suit, and I just started seeking out Comic Cons, and I did charity work as well, and it just took its form from there, really. And I did it when it was uncool, and I've done it when it's cool.
Yeah, it's amazing because you definitely think got a lot of attention, especially on Instagram with you going in as Superman.
Yeah, I try to honor the S and encourage others to do it, and I think that's a big part of what I do. Is I want others to take part in this. In the UK, we don't have that many Supermen. There's lots in America. And as I said, there's lots of Man of Steel, and it's not my favourite cosplay, the Man of Steel. So I just want to encourage people to do it and enjoy it. And I love this charity side where you can make somebody's day, you can make a kid smile, you can make the parents of the sick kid smile. That is really, really special to me. And I do some charity events, long walks occasionally as well, and just appear. But most of my stuff is done for hospices or stuff like that. that, and I really enjoy it. And that's, to me, that's more special than maybe the cons. I tire of cons a little bit, maybe because in the UK they're a bit repetitive, but eventually I want to get to Superman Celebration next year, and Dragon Con is enticing me every time I see pictures from Dragon Con, which has just been like, I must go. There are some so cool cosplayers out there that I really, really want to meet.
Yeah, no, like there is amazing cosplays over there.
You look at people like, is it Tim from Florida? He is somebody I look up to. He's been doing it for a very long time. His suits are amazing. You've got some amazing cosplayers over in America. And I really hope to meet them one day and stand beside them and have a picture.
Yeah, just be prepared for a lot of walking for that con.
I think our Excel convention is also pretty big. For our MCM in Excel is a pretty big walking con, but I'd imagine it's probably on steroids in America. But yeah, I know what it's like, and a pair of super boots which are comfortable for cons, and a pair of photography, and the comfortable ones are always put on for a con. They don't look quite the ticket, but at the end of the day, you don't get blisters and you don't feel like you just walked on a bit of nails.
Yeah, plus there's also, it's pretty warm out there in Atlanta, and even more so at the Metropolis Superman Festival. Like that's gonna be hot no matter what you wear. So
I know, I've been warned about the humidity for that, and I really look forward to going to that. I mean, we have the opposite here in the UK. Sometimes it's so cold and so wet. I have done New Year's Day's parades through the middle of London, and I am drenched like a rat. But you kind of adapt and choose to suit accordingly, like Superman Returns. It's a leather cape, so you wear that, and your back is waterproof. You need like a giant poncho. Where in the summer you want to wear the reef because it's nice and light. And yeah, it's a bit sweaty under the arms, but it's very light. It's very free flowing, and it wicks away the sweat. So you can kind of, with all the different versions of Superman, wear a different suit depending on the occasion and the weather.
yeah. So besides conventions, like what kind of events do you appear as the character?
I try and do a monthly visit to the local hospice where we do Superman stuff with the kids. So we do normally like an exercise class or breakfast with the superheroes, so it gets them up and motivated. I've done stuff for hospitals, so we've done exercise with the kids. They often chuck us with the kids that need to be kind of rehabilitated. We like to do exercise classes just to get them moving around, shaking arms, and because it's a lot more fun having Superman and other cosplay characters telling you or giving you new instructions than a boring old nurse. So that's the type of stuff I do. I've got a little lad I also do support with in the local area. He's got a form of MDM, which is a muscle wasting disorder for kids, and we try and raise money for that and make his life a bit better.
Nice. Do you ever go like to any like hospitals or children's birthday parties?
Done that. Used to do birthday parties, but again, that wasn't my thing. It's just a bunch of kids pulling on your cape, asking you why you can't fly. Whereas if you go to hospitals and hospices, kids tend to be a lot more, what's the word? They respect you more, but they also, you get more out of it from the kids. I've been in places, and one of the weirdest situations I've often found myself in is you can go to a child that's just had chemo or some type of therapy where they can't, the parents can't touch them because they're worried about viruses and infections and stuff like that. And the doctors and nurses and the parents are wrapped in plastic. The whole body's wrapped in plastic. They can't physically touch their children. Yet they get us to go in, and all we have to do is scrub up and make sure our clothes are clean. And I often ask, like, why do they let us do that? And the response from the doctors is that those 5 minutes or 15 minutes with Superman or whoever they're with is more, it kind of boosts their immune system naturally. So actually, they're less worried about us being contaminated because they're taken out of their pain and their suffering for 15 minutes, and their bodies actually respond in a positive way. They think so. You also see the parents light up because their kids for 15 minutes has forgotten that they're sick or they're in pain. So it does make a huge difference going to hospitals and hospices over the chat over the con stuff, which I'm afraid to say I don't know about American cons, but over here cons are, for me, they're just a boot fair where you pay to go in and buy a load of tat. And there's maybe a few photographers outside as well, but people are fighting for those photographers.
Yeah, I imagine so. But yeah, like that's great that you make such a good impact with these kids. And, like, you do more than just just like posing around at cons. You want to make more of an impact on people.
When you work with kids in a hospice, and I started from documentary eyes. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I started doing this at university. And I was working with a hospice there, and I learned that hospices aren't a sad place; they're actually a place of joy. And it's the last moments a family can sometimes spend together, or they go into respite. But you can make those moments for those children and those families 10 times better. Yeah, I imagine you as a child, you probably met, I don't know, Mickey Mouse, Pluto. So I remember meeting Pluto at Disney World in Florida the first time, and I remember that to this day. It was amazing to meet Pluto, and I'm sure that the kids, when I see them and other people see them in those situations, you make a memory with the family, not just the kid, but the family for life.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's what makes your band so impactful and stuff. It's just because like he's powerful, but depending against the version you're going with, he can be very compassionate. Like it's like kind of like the best big brother you would get at one of those like after school programs.
Try to listen. I think that's one of the things I've learned, and that's the documentary side in me is you pause. And when you're making a documentary, and like you're interviewing now, is you pause and you make the person feel not uncomfortable, but you give them that extra long space so they talk a bit more. So they sometimes get. I've had children ask me, "What's it like to die?" When I've been at hospice, and you can't respond to that. But then what you do is you pause and you let them start talking it through with you, and actually it relieves a lot of stress from them, and they answer the question themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's something to see from a child's perspective sometimes, and especially with the time they got with their family, because family is really important.
Yeah, and you've got to remember that sometimes they can't ask these questions to their family. So Superman, if they're a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, even an 11-year-old, they can kind of live in a bit of a world of fantasy for a moment and ask questions that sometimes are a bit troubling, and you're just there and you listen. That's it. The best thing any cosplayer could do in those situations is just listen.
Of course. So, do you have any new suits you might have planned for the future?
I do have one planned at the moment. I hope to debut it at Superman Celebration next year. I can tell you now, I might as well. I'm going for a comic book series that was made is an official Superman comic book made by John Cleese of the Monty Python and Fawlty Towers fame, and it was a version of the Superman comics called Superman True Brit, and it was a British Superman. So I'd like to kind of make that and take that over to Superman Celebration. It was an official comic, and it's crazy and daft, and it's very, very John Cleese. So I hope to make that for my next suit.
Nice, yeah, that'd be unique to see, because I think it's better like to see more variations of costumes, not just the usual classic. Because of course it's classic. Sometimes it's nice to see what styles could there be, like what the comic you described, as well as from, let's say, Red Sun or Kingdom Come, or even one of those solar black suits.
Yeah, I would like to do the Dingham solar black. red and blue Superman or somebody else.
Yeah. But now I say let's get to with the show for My Adventures Superman. Like, what are your thoughts on the show? Like, I guess when it started and how it came about.
Nobody watching, I will say some spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, sorry. But
sorry, what was that?
I was saying there's a few spoilers ahead, so if you haven't watched it, I'm sorry I've spoiled it for you if you haven't watched it. But I really loved it. I was very dubious to start with. I initially saw it and thought, oh, anime, and got a bit worried. I listened to an American podcast called Clownfish TV, and they kind of compared it against She-Ra. I think it started with the transformation that was shown in America. You have to understand that us here in Britain, we haven't got access to officially watching it. I have managed to watch it, but we haven't got official ways of watching it. So it's been a bit of a pain to see. Warner Brothers don't have a platform over here to stream and broadcast stuff, surprisingly. So it's been very hard to see it. But so I was going for a lot of podcasts and what people were saying to start with. So I listened to this podcast and I was like, oh, I really wish they'd done a better job and it wasn't anime, but actually, I've seen it and I love it. I think I was a massive fan of Lois and Clark back in the 90s. And this, for me, is comparable to Lois and Clark. The storylines, the telling, I just think it's great. What about yourself? Sorry, I'm speaking too much.
No, you're good, man. Yeah, no, like you were saying pretty much all the points. I wasn't sure about myself because I figured like, this would be just a very maybe one of those silly comedic anime kind of things, but that's the beauty part with anime. Like even for things that may seem very simple, very like sitcom style, they hide in like, how things can get really dark and serious in the blink of an eye. It's like, because with anime you can do like all kinds of stories, different themes in the same stories, and somehow it works. And for something like Superman, like you get all the kinds like shonen tropes, like where you have the very chippy, like very positive protagonist, which I would say for Jack Quaid handled for the role here, he did well.
Yeah, I thought they just nailed everything that I saw. Some of the villains I got a bit bored with, but we can discuss that later on. But I was shocked when I was watching and I discovered that Lois found out that he was Superman in episode 4. Well, that's very early on.
What I figured at some point they might have done that, because I feel like at this day and age, like we all know the story, and we've seen stuff where Lois is in a no house. I feel like they're not gonna put like, let's say 2 years or 5 years of Lois be in the dark, because there's enough content to showcase that already.
And it was interesting how they used the reveal scene and get very much similar scenes from the original movie, Agreed, with the thrown off a balcony kind of thing. I really did enjoy it. The little nods to the other. I mean, throughout the whole series, there are nods to the other series and Earth Supermans, aren't there? That is beautiful. And the biggest nod I really liked was the Trunks. In episode 1, I think it was, where he first got his super suit. I don't know if you liked that, but the way he was, because there's always this contention amongst cosplayers and Superman fans, does Superman wear trunks or not? And I thought the way they dealt with that by the suit coming out without trunks, and then his mum and aunt giving him trunks and a belt, was a really nice touch of both worlds, both parents.
Yeah, I felt the same thing, because like I think it makes sense. I think for like what the suit, the material suit should be definitely more of his Kryptonian heritage, but then with adding like the trunks and the belt, it gives it like that nice like classic American American vibe.
And I thought they've done really, really well. I love that.
Yeah. Plus, like how stylized his hair is when he's Superman compared to his Clark hairstyle.
Yeah, the rough up hair I thought was really cool, and the Superman lips and all that. I don't know how somebody that big though could get away with not being noticed as Superman, because he's a huge character in the cartoon. I thought they could have used the parents a little bit more in it, especially as he was discovering his abilities and power. But that's another thing I really, really enjoyed. He's still on a journey of discovery, so we've almost got some Smallville vibes in there as well. He's learning new powers, and hearing, and we hear it in hearing was a fun one to witness, and etc. And when he overdoes it and does too much.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like he was hearing pretty much like everything, and then like when he was focusing too much, he would just get like pretty much like an earache and everything. It was just like, though I did like how he was drinking coffee for like 3 days straight because he was pretty much solving everything without any rest. I was like, Jesus.
He's Kryptonian. He can deal with it. I mean, that shouldn't have an effect on him anyway.
Sorry, what?
He's Kryptonian, so that shouldn't have an effect on him anyway.
I guess it depends on the writing of the episode, because that's one thing I always notice, I think, when it comes to Superman's powers. Like I guess when it comes to like like with him sleeping or having energy to go by, I guess it depends on the writer for the episode, because I feel like sometimes you think like he doesn't need sleep, he doesn't need food, like he can just go about like a day or two without needing that stuff. But then like you gotta figure out like if he's gonna be like be beaten down by someone, then like you gotta figure out how to make it work. And I guess in this case with the show, like if he's been like tiring himself out doing all the Superman stuff with everything, then yeah, that's probably conveniently the only way that Task Force X was able to get a hold of him.
That's why they used unknown weapons, wasn't it? Because we don't know what the power of those weapons were. That's part of why they picked alien tech weapons.
Yeah, I did like the fact that for most of the villains that showcased here, they're all tech-based. It's not just a usual science lab experiment gone wrong or something, or some freak accident that would normally kill a person but give them superpowers.
Yeah, they did try and do things differently for this series, and I have to give credit to them. It didn't feel too samey, and that's what Superman in the past has felt samey, and they did really well. But look at Jimmy. Jimmy is a completely different character in my mind. Do you think so?
Yeah, I agree. Like it was a different change of pace with Jimmy, because normally like he's supposed to be like younger than both Superman and Lois, but I actually like the direction where like Clark and Jimmy are roommates, so that they're actually like best friends and stuff, and I liked how in the end he knew about Clark's secret before he even thought of going as Superman.
Yeah, that was when Clark told Jimmy, and he was like, I knew. I thought that was quite a funny twist, because people that haven't seen him, he's a big conspiracy theorist. So I can see why Clark didn't want to tell him about his secret, because he did post and have Instagram and all these different channels and talking about conspiracy theories. So yeah, it was. I liked the outing again very quickly. That was only the episode straight after the Lois reveal one was Jimmy then is involved in it.
Yeah. Plus the Brain and Monsieur Mala, like their interactions between themselves and with Jimmy was like hilarious.
Yeah, and I really loved the whole outing of his powers and abilities. I thought the series started off stronger, and then went a little bit weak towards the end. If I'm brutally honest.
I suppose. I mean, granted, this Superman's like, I think they mentioned like I guess for his age is like 22, 23.
Yeah, no, but overall, I loved it. I thought the villains were different, interesting. They weren't your normal Lex Luthor with a lump of kryptonite. Um, I loved how they that scene with the mirror where he goes to different Earth Supermans, and they showed the classic cartoon drawn animations, and then the '90s version of the cartoon. I love that.
Yeah, that was a nice callback. Like that whole episode had nice references, especially for the Fleischer Superman with I guess where that version of Lois started the whole League of Lanes.
It was interesting. It was interesting. What
Yeah.
did you feel about Parasite and his development?
For whose development?
The Parasite.
For Parasite? Oh, God. 50-50. Like, it was definitely different because, like, normally I figure they would bring in, like, Rudy Jones or something for Parasite because that's usually the go-about work where he gets kind of, like, thrown into some kind of, like, dangerous chemicals and stuff that makes him like a parasite. Though it's interesting that they put him, instead of him, they brought in Dr. Ivo, who is normally a Justice League villain that created the android Amazo.
I thought it was a different. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah,
That took me by surprise.
definitely. Although his personality was very annoying and off-putting. Like it was. I feel like it was like an evil Tony Stark kind of vibe.
It was, but I also thought that character wasn't very well developed. Personally, I thought the the underlying story of the whole series was a little bit weak, but I can't complain. I mean, could you tell me, have they commissioned a second series?
Hmm?
Have they commissioned a second series?
Yeah, the second series is like, it's definitely gonna be happening. I'm not sure exactly when, due to like with the if the strike's been involved or anything being part of it, but yeah, because I think they're definitely gonna do more with the show, and because I definitely still have some questions, especially when it comes to with Krypton in the past, like what exactly was going on when Zero Day hit.
No, there's plenty of questions. I just wasn't sure because it felt very. I don't know about you, but it felt very rushed.
Yeah, that's the problem I think when it comes to with streaming services, like how like when you want to see a show like this, they only do like 10 episodes because I feel like for 10 episodes that barely covers much of anything depending on the story. And I feel like for something like this, maybe 13 at least.
But one thing I want to say is I really enjoyed the music and the soundtrack to it. Very subtle, the opening sequence, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it felt powerful. Um, and going back to the anime style, it didn't bother me as much eventually. The only times that it would bother me were the pink cheeks,
Hmm.
the
Yeah,
blushing.
yeah, probably. Although I did like Superman's reaction when a tire got thrown in his face.
Yeah, well, that was episode 5, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was episode 5. That was with the whole like Lois trying to get Clark to fess up.
That was funny, that episode. And then I like it when she puts that handcuff on him and says, "I'm going to be here with you everywhere," and I'm like, he could just snap that with his little finger. Why would he? Why did he go through that whole fight sequence still chained to her, to eventually fly it back to the Daily Planet, and then just break it off with his pinky?
Well, I guess he rather just handles like one thing at a time. I guess in this case, probably handle the bad guys first, then drop Lois off because otherwise, like because I can't leave these because they're a lead. I can't like lose the lead, I guess, or something.
Um, I just think the dynamics of the show were fantastic, and I would say to anybody out there, give it a go.
I agree. Yeah, for anyone here that has not seen the show yet, definitely find it either through if Adult Swim has aired it in London for anyone viewing from there, or if you got HBO Max, or just Max, as it's called now, then yeah, you can find it
Over
through
here in the
there.
UK,
But yeah, it's
over here in the UK, eventually it will be on Sky, and currently you cannot watch it by legal means here in the UK.
gotcha.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, but that's why I was wondering, like, which episodes did you like the most so far out of the series?
I always enjoy the episodes of the initial ones, to be honest, where he discovers his suit, and I also love the coming out the lowest episode. Well, there was a series of 2 episodes, wasn't it? That was spread across. Um, I just really, really enjoyed that because that's when we were introduced to Parasite in an unexpected way, um, and I just thought it didn't disappoint in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, same. Although I did like the last 3 episodes. I felt like it finally answered some questions that I had since the beginning. Because I had a feeling when, I think from episode 5, that the general was Lois's dad. 'Cause I had a sense because he had that same stick about lying as Lois, and they look similar. So I think that's my knowledge from like other media, like where Lois's dad has been shown as a general, or at least work in the army. So I feel like, ooh, like they're making Lois's dad an enemy of Superman. That makes it interesting, though very complicated.
Yeah, I just think probably the weakest part of the series was Venom still. I There was a few holes. I don't know if you remember the episode where we discover the parasite and there's all that tech in the basement, and the next minute all that tech is gone. It's like it's a bit too convenient, but it's a cartoon, so you can't always sorry, anime, so you can't always take it by its word.
Yeah, I mean that's how fast the government can be when there's a big distraction, like a giant monster attack in the city.
Well, he wasn't giant then. He was only fairly large, just about draining through.
True.
But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I did like, I think, the second Parasite fight more because it was showcasing the dangers of that Parasite suit he was making, where he was basically becoming a freaking kaiju, and then I liked how Lois and Jimmy through their stream got everyone to shut down their power, ergo with the title of their article, City Saves Superman. And I felt like that was really powerful, especially after the previous episode where Vicky Vale was trying to like write down a more negative look on Superman.
So going forward in the next series, what would you like to see?
You stole my question. Well, I guess if I want to see more of season 2, maybe I guess something like maybe like a flashback episode or something, like with Lois and her dad. Like, what was he like, I guess, when Lois was a kid? Because it seemed like before 0 Day he was a more positive guy, but then after everything that happened, he just became very difficult to be with, and not just for Lois, apparently I guess with anyone, especially with Martha, which I found hilarious.
I would like some more of Martha involved. I felt like that was long, especially when he discovered, especially in the first couple of episodes, I thought that was a little bit lacking. But
yeah, still, I'm glad we got them involved with the Thanksgiving stuff, especially with Jonathan being all focused on making the perfect turkey with the temperature.
it was a good series, and I look forward to seeing the rest of it, to be honest, when it comes out. And hopefully we'll get it at the same time as you guys.
Hopefully, yeah. But I think besides that, maybe see like other characters, because I've seen fan arts and ideas of what would be like if they brought in Batman into this.
I'm not a fan of that personally. think Superman can stand up on his own, and we've had too many crossovers, in
Yeah,
my opinion, and it's only my opinion. I
yeah,
would like them to hold on to that, maybe possibly till series three, and maybe not Batman, maybe another character. We don't. I've always loved the idea that Superman is the only superhero. I'm not saying that there aren't other superheroes, but there is a period in time where he is the only person with special gifts and abilities that acts as a superhero. It's why I love the Reeve films so much. Um, and maybe that's me just loving all the classic stuff. It's when you start getting other superheroes, the uniqueness and the quality of that goes for me.
yeah. I feel like they might. Yeah, maybe not necessarily Batman. Like maybe some other characters that may not have been exposed, but I have a feeling Batman would appear at one point since they brought in Vicky Vale because she's basically Batman's Lois Lane.
That they bring in Crypto.
Yeah. Plus, even for the Brain and for Mala, they're not necessarily Superman related characters. They're more with Teen Titans and Doom Patrol.
No, I think it's got scope, but I don't want them to push it too soon. I feel like this series was way too quick. I'd like them to do a series, the next series, which is a lot shorter. Sorry, a lot slower in pace, and then maybe series three we have extra characters brought in. Still feel like we've got a long way to go yet before we need to start worrying about viewing figures and
Yeah.
other characters. People was involved, maybe Crypto, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. Well, yeah. Ooh, that's one thing I want to see. Like, definitely see more of like what was it like for I guess this particular version of like what happened with Krypton. Like, because I want to see like, because it seems like a lot was happening before Krypton exploded, or even if it did explode. Because now I'm wondering like, because I mean I'm thinking it. I mean probably obviously it did. Though I'm wondering like, what happened? What exactly is going on with Brainiac? With that, and is that other person with Brainiac, is that Zod? Because I know there is a whole Neil line, and that's usually Zod's thing, but you never know. They might twist it where it's like it's some other Kryptonian survivor that maybe appear in the comics just didn't get enough exposure because we all know Zod.
Yeah, no, I think there's so much that can be done. I think it would also be fun to maybe Bizarro.
Yeah, I could see Bizarro, and although I gotta say, I think that assistant of Ivo, I'm gonna say probably what everyone else is, what a lot of people are thinking, that it's probably gonna be is actually Lex, like a young Lex.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I had those thoughts too.
Yeah, it's just because of the personality, and like at first I figured because like he has like a ginger, like that sort of brown orange hair color, and he's wearing purple. But then once I got to hear what his thoughts are on Superman, I was like, yep, that's definitely Luthor.
Which maybe the whole of the next series can focus on.
Yeah, yeah, probably that, and seeing like what's I guess now maybe something with Intergang now that the criminals are broken out of the government facility.
Yeah. No, I think I've got a lot of scope to go, and this is just the beginning, and there's probably like 5 series in this at least.
Yeah, I could see us maybe doing 5 seasons. Like second season should just be like more personal stuff. Like maybe a little more with the parents, with both Clark and Lois's parents. A little more, I think, maybe with it. I mean, plus who knows if there's still more alien tech out there. So we might see more villains due to the tech. Maybe a handful there. Maybe something with Bizarro. Maybe too soon for season 2. Maybe for like a year later, maybe another year later or so, depending how they go about that.
We need Lex and Krypton.
Yeah. I guess for Bizarro, I think what could make that work is maybe like an alternate reality, because originally I think Bizarro was just from a different world, I think, right?
Yeah, and we've had that crossover, the different Earths. So maybe that's how they introduced that character.
Yeah. Ooh, and maybe they could bring in like Toyman or Metallo. That'd be interesting.
Be very interesting. I think, like I said, I think what did the Lois and Clarks? They had 4 series um, with Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher, and I think this could easily surpass that. They just need to run it at a slower pace.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think I want to see more. I guess like they're doing their job, because like through this show, like we barely got to see them being as interns, because they just basically were speedrunning to like, let's be reporters, not just like freaking interns. At least that was Lois' thing. But now that they are reporters, hopefully we get to see them like doing their job and trying to like depending like exactly what their roles are going to be. So I think that should be
I,
it.
I hope they do go down the route of trying to show us their daily lives more. Superman's different kind of um, identities. There was that scene in one of the episodes where I think it was episode 2, where he's got the suit on, or it might be in episode 1, and he changes very quickly and tidies up the flat. I'd like to see some of that more reality, the more day-to-day life stuff, the more heroic kind of stuff. It's very difficult to do that in the live action stuff. With cartoons and anime, you can do that. So I think they should really embrace the ability to do all these extra little nuggets um, and give that to the fans, so that it's not just always about action and story and the developing story. It's deeper and has more meaning.
Yeah, I feel like for some things DC handles better with its animated products over its live action. Although I say for the Superman Lois show, it does a pretty good balance where it's like not all about action. Like there's definitely good character development and a sense of the family themes, with Superman being a dad trying to help out his 2 boys.
It's exactly why I don't enjoy the Man of Steel, Justice League, or BBS, is because you see Superman doing really little Superman stuff. There's probably a small montage of him lifting up an oil tanker, or there's not really, he doesn't do the little stuff. In the original Reeve films, he was stopping criminals, but on the other hand, he was also saving kittens from trees, and they showed that in this series, and I really did enjoy that.
Yeah, I feel like for this show, like they found a good way how to utilize what Zack Snyder was trying to do, but I think more with the visuals, like with the Kryptonian invasion kind that was happening in the series, whereas they kept in the Reeve influence with Clark's personality, his suit a bit, and I think just overall the tone of the series is going for, how it's very lighthearted at times, where it's just like how to get by whatever today's like a job or gig or whatever they have to do. Yeah, something simple.
I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, so I mean, if this series gets to last a few more years, and all to it, and hopefully we get to see some aspect of this for James Gunn's Superman movie in 2 years or so.
Fingers crossed if it's not affected by the strikes. I look forward to seeing that movie. I look to see what they're doing with the suit. Saying they dropped Cavill, but
yeah,
it moves on.
Yeah, it sucks because I feel like but I feel like Cavill had potential. I feel like under the right direction, he really could have stand out a lot more as Superman, not just with the looks and the physique stuff. Because I feel like that's what he gets recognized as. Like it's his take on the character was, I say, unique and different, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But I feel like there has to be some positivity from him, like to smile as the character, where in the movies he didn't really smile too much. It's all about focusing, doing his powers and stuff, and making him very godlike.
Hollywood had a period where it loved dark superheroes, and unfortunately, they saw a couple of movies and they had great feelings figures, and they carried on going down the dark aspect. Superman isn't dark. He's light. He's slightly comical. Um, and unfortunately, Cavill was it was he was in the dark period of Superman, and it wasn't a for me. I actually don't kill me, but I prefer Superman Returns over the Cavill films.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I found a very funny meme. Like when it came to Superman Returns, people didn't like it because it was like it's just the same thing. Let's see something different. And then we get Man of Steel. Then people are like, too different. Let's bring back the classic Superman back. So I'm like what then? When I see that, I'm thinking like, well, fans, like, what do we want? Do we want the classic? Do we want edgy, dark, or what? Like, fine. Very few stuff has a middle ground.
Best Lex, Kevin. Okay, G-Mac was good as well. But best Mondo Lex. And what was going on with the kid? That was the problem. People didn't understand what was going on with the kid.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey definitely was a very good Luthor. Although, if you haven't seen Superman Lois season 3, definitely look for it with how they brought in their version of Lex. It's not John Cryer. It's Michael Cudlitz from I think he's known from being in The Walking Dead. He's a very dark, intimidating Lex Luthor.
Met Kevin Spacey at Comic Con outside a hotel. Absolutely brilliant guy. Gotta say that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you're not wrong there. But still, like, how they handled Lex in the Superman Lois show, like, this is a Lex where he was arrested for a while. He got out of jail, so he's definitely aching for payback. And I think that's more interesting to see, like, what would be Lex like if he got arrested, managed to get out, and that now he's like out on the run looking for revenge. Like, I feel like that's
so he'd be in the underworld.
Sorry, what?
He'd be in the underworld.
The criminal underworld or the actual underworld?
Criminal underworld.
Oh yeah, because even in prison, Lex managed to make sure he got his way. Well, I'd say that's probably it for the live stream. I want to say thank you again, Keith, for being a part of this, and I'm glad that you still keeping up with cosplaying as Superman. Hope to continue so, and if you ever come by to the Superman Festival in Metropolis, I hope to see you there.
Either this June, July, whenever it is in 2020, it'll be an amazing experience, and I hope to see all the other people there as well.
Yeah, it is really a very great experience to have, especially for a Superman fan. And thank to any of you viewers watching this stream. Hope to see you soon. For next on this channel will be this year's DC December.